And oh, we're live.
Great. I'm waiting for it to show up on this side
Okay, me too.
because it doesn't say we're live yet.
Oh, on
No, on here it still says scheduled, but we are on Instagram. So hello to everybody who is watching this. There we go. This is the Ask Me Astros weekly coffee chat where we go over just relevant astrology for the moment, ask some general questions in the comments if you would like to see if we can answer them. Again, general just means like general astrology stuff. We can't really go into in-depth readings in the comments today. But if you are interested in something in your chart, you can actually go to askmeastros.com, submit your chart specific question there. And once a month, we do choose a chart where we dive in on a special broadcast to go into that chart. And if we choose your chart, you will get a free reading with the both of us individually. So it's a really fun thing to do. And I am KristaLyn and Sofia. This is Vivi Henriette. How are you doing, Vivi?
good. It's funny. I had an interview with a Vivian. I'm not even going to pronounce Vivian's last name, Stars in Alignment, and I myself was fucking up my name. So
I rarely have that problem.
No, you never have. That was funny. And I was like, oh, it's man. Oh, hello, Angela. Hope
Angela.
with facts, Angela.
I'll be talking to Angela later today because we have our first lesson in the Patreon. I'm so excited.
Oh, I'm excited for you. Yeah. I'm just tell you what, I am starting to feel like a human again. I am.
Yay.
Taurus season has been well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this week we have Mercury will be moving into Taurus as well. So that should help. The only one left in Aries is, of course, the ruler, Mars, who is creeping up to that North Node. And I've been side-eyeing that one a lot.
Oh, should we look at the chart of the moment?
Yes. Would you like me to share it?
Sure, that'd be wonderful.
I will present my screen so that we can look at Luna. Now, of course, this is the chart of the moment when we pull it up, if you wouldn't mind adding it to the broadcast.
Of course.
Hey, Tanya. So this is the chart of the moment for my location. As you can see, I'm in Virginia. So what you would want to do if you look at the chart of the moment for you is go to Luna, set up your settings as your location, and it will always upload to the chart of the moment for you. But you can also just change the settings for the location and set it for the current time and date, as you can see there. I can even update it over here, and we'll get it to actually 10:08, which makes my heart happy for actually saying it is the chart of the moment. So here in Virginia, the moon is not yet risen. We can see she's down here. The ascendant is here, but we are having the ascendant in Cancer right now. This is what we're looking at for the most of the action this week, though.
Which is, so two things. One, it's kind of wild just to think about it because I'm in Los Angeles. So my chart of the moment looks different. So there's a different planet rising. And so I'm having a different experience, although we are having this shared experience.
Yeah.
But what won't change is where the plants themselves are. And this, like, the moon is going to be in, the moon just got into Leo. The moon is going to be in Leo everywhere, for instance.
Yeah, so we're all going to have the same distribution of planets in signs today, but where the ascendant is will change throughout the day because the ascendant is your eastern horizon. So as the Earth turns, the moon, for this example, and even the sun will progress through the sky, reach culmination, and then set later in the day. And so that is kind of what we're looking at when we're looking at a chart. It's a squished version of the 3D sky.
Which is cute. Because one of the fun things about this chart at the moment is if you're traveling, like you were, for instance, you can draw a relocated birth chart. So, which is a fun thing to do as a way of understanding how you interact with a place. So you would take your birth time date, but change the location to where you are.
A lot of people do that when they move.
Yeah. Or even just like traveling. Have you done that on your
I have
trips?
not, because I haven't found examples of it in ancient texts. so far, so I haven't played around with it much. I did use astrocartography when I was
Yeah.
thinking about moving to just see how that would jive with different locations. Because my brain actually has trouble being like, why would I change where I was born to suit the place that I'm in? So I actually prefer the theory that I currently understand of astrocartography of overlaying my chart on the Earth and seeing which areas of Earth were actually positively affected at the time of my birth. But that is totally something I am still exploring and still developing my opinions on for sure.
Yeah, I've never I wasn't born in Los Angeles. I'm not changing
Mhm.
my birth time. That being stated, I did when I last year I was on a retreat with Jason Holly and
Mhm.
we were in France for a set period of time. And it was interesting everyone pulled up a relocated chart
Yeah.
for that place to see how maybe that if our experiences during that trip resonated more with the relocated chart. And in doing that as sort of a group experiment was really
Mhm.
fascinating because a lot of people found that different planets spoke louder or spoke differently, reflected in this relocated chart in this relocated place.
Gotcha. And so in the relocated chart, you would have had the same, again, distributions of planets, but they would have been in different houses and you would have had a different rising sign. And you're saying that for you guys during that experiment, it actually kind of resonated a little bit of that while you were in that location, you almost embodied that natal chart.
Yeah. Hmm.
That is
Yeah.
really
It was cool, especially because we were doing a lot of astro drama. Like it was a very
cool.
therapeutic trip. So it was interesting to see like specifically that place, what was coming forth from us. So
Mhm.
yeah, I'm generally not like big on relocating your chart in general, but I think in specific instances it can be really interesting and
Yeah,
helpful.
no, I really love hearing your example of that because it makes it make more sense for me. So thank you for
Mhm.
sharing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tanya, if you have a general question, we can absolutely answer it. If you have a personal question for your chart, emailing us like it sounds like you did is the right way to go. And we will look at it and it will be in the running for being chosen for our monthly Ask Me Astros broadcast.
Yes. Um, wow. I'm like,
Yeah.
I can't even remember. It's okay. And we will announce it before it happens. I have
Yeah.
no idea how space works right now because you we are between trips, we are between things, we are after eclipses.
Yeah. So I just got back from Italy. You and I have 2 trips coming up.
Yeah.
And then we'll be home for like a month. So there's a lot of like the next thing happening in my head right now. But yeah, usually we aim to do it around the turn of the astrological season. So when the sun moves from one sign into another, we try to do that. We are not always able to make that work, but usually sometime around that time of the month, we will do our live Ask Me Astros reading.
It's so interesting. I'm just like staring at the sun, just hanging out on Uranus.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
What a
that's the one
crazy
today.
weekend.
When we're sitting here saying, I really just can't think that far into the future. Yeah. Yeah, the sun is
Mm.
currently separating from Uranus and applying to Jupiter, which is lovely. Um,
Mhm.
I'm looking forward to the Jupiter thing, but I just feel like any of the chaos that comes from this or the decision to change that comes from this gets its boost when we hit Jupiter. So if you're feeling, maybe this is very personal in your chart for some reason, if you're feeling like, man, I just need to change something, I need to drop this and pick this up, you might find that the decision comes this week and the motivation and the resources to make that happen may also come along with it because we do have that Jupiter Kazemi happening later in the week.
Yeah, or that, whatever gets blown. I always think of too Jupiter as being like the big, like it's like a book and a magnifying glass at the same time. Like, so
I know.
something erupts and then Jupiter's like, "Okay, look at it very closely, and now, like, here is a new book on this new wisdom because hopefully what's gonna happen is you're gonna have a complete paradigm change, and,
Yeah.
um, then, then we can resource you after."
Yeah. Class is over. Time for the next class, which is really cool. I'm about to be when Jupiter gets into Gemini and enters actually conjoins with my lot of fortune, I will be starting my first master's class. I've been preparing them because they've been kind enough to give me the books to read ahead of time, which has been the most beautiful accommodation I could ever ask for. But I'm really excited to get started. And I have professors reaching out to me like, we're thinking about bringing this course and this language into the curriculum. Would you be interested? And I'm like, teach me all the languages, please. Yes, please. Yeah.
Oh my God. That like reminds me all the boxes I have to do getting ready for school.
Right. Yeah, we're both in that boat together.
I love that. Yeah, I love your thoughts. It's obviously the thing that I'm thinking about most. So we had the big eclipse season. It was the you know, the massive ego annihilation, not for all of us, but it was a big moment. And then this like Taurus conversation has been both like it's been bumpy, right? And so it's interesting to think about what's going to happen when just like everything shifts into Gemini.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you have some thoughts. I really want them.
Well, you think I've been thinking about the sky? Why would you think that? No, I have been thinking about the sky. It's all I think about, and I love it. Yeah, I just feel like when Jupiter gets into Gemini, we get this very interesting thing where Jupiter is the benefic, right? We love Jupiter. Jupiter has air triplicity in Gemini, right? But it is Gemini, which is the sign that opposes Sagittarius. And so my question is, it's been 12 years since we last had Jupiter in Gemini. So what are we going to see as far as Jupiter making things big, but being very scatterbrained about it? So I'm wondering, Jupiter is saying, I want to do this and I want to do that. I want to do this. And I wonder if it's less expansion and more, diversifying that we get with that kind of thing of like, there's more than one way to make this happen. And we can actually experiment with all the ways, throw all the pasta at the wall and see what sticks. And yeah, I did just get back from Italy. So pasta's on the brain, but that's what I'm really currently thinking about.
Yeah. Adding to that, I'm thinking it's interesting because last time Jupiter was in Gemini was 12 years ago. And so we were still in as far as the like I could speak, the great ages having to do with the Jupiter Saturn conjunction. So I'm getting this right? Right. Like we are now in the age of air, but we were in the age of earth before, right? And so this
Yeah.
Yeah. And so thinking about there has been this movement towards air that's been this like larger story under sort of that we're not all thinking about all the time. And I think that has been compounded with Pluto going into Aquarius. And so it's interesting to thinking about this added level of air that wasn't there last time Jupiter was in Gemini.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, so we have this, I've been trying to figure out like what's the best way to separate the astrological ages from the period that we're entering into. So the reason I like caught on the age of air was because I spend a lot of my time differentiating between the age of Aquarius and the era of air that we're in right now. But you're absolutely correct. It's just semantics at that point. So we are in this cycle of, I'm okay. I fell in Italy when the moon was culminating in Aries with Mercury and Mars. I fell in the middle of the street, in the middle of traffic in Rome.
Oh my God. I didn't even notice. Like I just thought
so
for some
Saturn
reason
I just noticed it's a brace. It's not a cast. I'm sure I'm fine.
I thought it was a fashion choice.
I mean, I do like the thumb
I'm just
holes.
like, oh, I like this aesthetic. Wow.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's nice. It's a very good thing. I have to wear my wristwatch up here though, because it's really annoying on this side. So that's not my favorite, but yes, I'm okay. The fall was worse than I initially thought too. My knee is still like very dark, black and white or black and blue. I noticed it yesterday and I was like, dang, it's been a week and that is not different colors. But yeah, so I'm okay. Thank you for asking. I appreciate it. I'm a whole like different age than I was back then. I'm sure the body will heal soon. But what I was talking about, the era of air.
Yes. And by the way, why do you say the semantics? Like,
oh yeah.
Why like is there an issue with age? I mean, I know it's not the age of Aquarius. I just say the age of air as opposed to era, but like tell me
I think people people who have been looking at the astrology a lot, we know what we're talking about when we talk about an age of air. But
Yes.
a lot of people are thinking, as soon as you say age, they go to age of Aquarius. And so for the
Okay.
people that I'm typically talking about in this context, I'm just used to differentiating for the sake of that.
Got it.
There is no error there. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just what I'm used to explaining and kind of getting ahead of explaining. So yeah, this period or era or age of air, as compared to the age of Aquarius, which is the precession of the equinoxes,
Yeah.
that's a couple hundred years off by the best calculations that we have right now.
Yes.
But this period or age of air is a real thing, and it is punctuated by Pluto now hanging out almost to stay in Aquarius. You can see Pluto down here already retrograde, going to head back into Capricorn, and then finally come to stay into Aquarius for the next 20 years or so. So we have this 20 years, this 2 decades of air that are also going to be punctuated even more or expanded upon even more by this very long period. I think it's 200 years that
Yeah.
Saturn and Jupiter spend in the air signs. Every 20 years they conjoin, and they will conjoin in air signs from now on for the rest of our lifetimes, very likely, unless, some miraculous medical breakthroughs come through. And so we concluded this period of air in the year 2000. This period of Earth, the year 2000, we had our last conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter. It was in Taurus. And now in 2020, they conjoined in Aquarius. At the very earliest degrees of Aquarius, they conjoined. And now we are in this 200-year cycle of air, which is something that is like very easy to confuse, right? Because it's like, oh, Aquarius is an air sign, even though it sounds like a water sign, it's an air sign. And now we have Pluto in Aquarius, which some people have been calling the age of Aquarius. And neither of those are the age that the song was talking about in the 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The age of Aquarius isn't even, there is no, that, like you said, that has to do with the precession of the equinox, which, right?
Mhm.
I get that right? Yeah. And
Recession.
that's not, yeah, procession, because they're, anyway, which you can explain in a moment, because my brain always
Mhm.
but which is incorrect. That's what we're saying.
Mhm. Yeah.
Incorrect. There's no age of Aquarius.
Yeah.
But where was I going with this? Oh, the age of air, era. I'll say era of
Mhm.
air is
The
interesting too, just for
era.
like era. Yeah. Because I was it 1984 when we had a little preview. So it's interesting. So
Mhm.
that was really fascinating. So people who, as we were approaching in 2020, we could go back at the end of 2020, we can go back and look at this 1984. I think it was
Mhm.
84, right?
I think it was. It was, I know it was,
82 or 84, but I think it's
I
84.
think it was 80. Actually, I think it was 82 if I'm thinking about it right. But what I
Okay.
can do here is, and you guys might see this, you might not. I'm actually going to go to a different setting here, which I have to make this bigger for. But let's keep talking, and I
Yes.
will figure this out when my brain starts working again. I think it's in cycles,
So
and
we
then
could, so essentially the idea is that we're having this preview period, people could go back and see, oh, there's this like period in time where we had these technical innovations in the 80s that sort of gave us a taste of what this is going to look like. But all of which is to say, I think that we already have, there is this shift elementally to air that Jupiter in Gemini is really going to exacerbate. And I love that idea of scatterbrained. I think it was Mickey Polerano, I was in a class with him this weekend, and he was talking about his ideas that planet in detriment, his theory is aren't really bad, but they have something to prove because they're
Mhm.
staring at their home from another place. And I'm like, oh, what does Jupiter and Gemini have to prove? Like maybe like we can do it all. And so there is something perhaps beyond the scatterbrained of Jupiter and Gemini are really having an agenda to push of like the multiplicity.
Yeah. Yeah, to the person Divine Child on Instagram, I use
Yeah.
arnica for bruises and strains, and I just got like an arnica plant. I'm just trying to honor allowing this to rest as I also give an ointment and things, but thank you for the recommendation. So what we're seeing here as well, it looks like it was the first conjunction was like New Year's Eve,
Oh,
1980.
80. Okay, that makes more sense
Mhm.
because if you think about people's birth charts, they have that Jupiter Saturn
Yeah,
conjunction.
boom, right there. Yeah, so we're
Thank
thinking
you.
about this as our first introduction into the era that we're in right now, and then we came to stay in that. So much like Pluto is going back and forth between Capricorn and Aquarius, and then we'll stay in Aquarius later this year. Cycles tend to do that as well. So we had the first air one in the 80s, and then it went back to Earth for a little while, and now it's back into air to stay for the next 200 years.
And just in general, how are you like elementally? How would you describe air? I know that's such a fundamental question, but I think it's something really interesting to think about.
And I think it's a great question. You know, it always pays to go back to the fundamentals and remind yourself of fundamentals. I do this to myself all the time because I'll be like, oh, here's the interpretation. And then it's like, okay, but why? Where am I pulling that from? What are my keywords? What's my foundation here? Angela and everyone on here who are part of my student study, we will be doing the fundamentals as well because I think they're valuable. So when it comes to air, air is a young or masculine, or, you know, we call it like the positive polarity.
Yeah.
It is obviously it's air by element. And so it's got this energy to it of intellectualism. It's got energy of being in the head a lot. And so one of the things that I've been thinking about with the air is, again, I think it's a warm and dry element. Did I get that right? Or it's no, warm and moist. It's warm and moist by condition.
Yeah. I wanted
So
to like
it
book, but
it does create a little bit. It is somewhat fertile when we think about it in that way. So there's a lot of opportunity for creating new ideas or innovation, especially when we think about air signs like Gemini, like Aquarius, and Libra, of course, as well. Libra leans towards justice when we think about the intellectualism side and the mental connection of Libra between people. But it is that mental energy that I think about so much. And so we're looking at AI. We're looking at, you know, what qualifies as identity. We're getting very philosophical about a lot of these things because we have to conceive of them before we can decide what we're going to do with them. And so I see a lot of things of like what qualifies as art at this point, what qualifies as, you know, insert thing here that we're developing, especially with our new technologies and with AI now being a part of everything. I saw a commercial for Adobe Photoshop the other day where it was dragging, just say like, I want jewels on this frog. And it made a frog wearing jewels on something, and they made it an ad. And it was like, people used to get paid for this. People should still get paid for this, for the creativity, for the vision, for the ability to take these concepts and give them some kind of form or image, which is very air, right? And now we're kind of removing ourselves and getting very detached, another air kind of concept. We're getting very detached from the humanity of it. So I'm looking forward to hopefully the one humanistic sign that we're looking at here of Aquarius, Pluto kind of saying, hey, detach in order to reconnect in a better way would be great.
well, at the same time, it's interesting. I think there is actually like a psychic quality to air, right? Like the thing about air is that there's no escaping it. If you put a chemical or perfume, if you put something in the air, it's going to atomize and reach everyone. So there is that quality of quick speed, like which is also kind of the other side of that is the ability that you and I can just now have so many tools to create this podcast to communicate with so many
Yeah,
people. That's also air.
it is.
And so there's also at the same time, I love this idea of thinking about air is its ability to feel sort of, it can alienate us in one sense, like put us in our head, but it can also bring us back together. Like the collective hive mind feels very air to me.
Totally. Especially in, again, that conjunction happened in Aquarius, Pluto's in Aquarius. So I'm going to focus on the Aquarian sign right now.
Yeah.
There is this dichotomy of Aquarius because it's this air sign. It's the humanistic sign. People call it the humanitarian sign, but it is ruled by Saturn, which is the greater malefic. And so sometimes it can be a little authoritarian. And so the biggest question I always get, and I always have to sit with it and say, well, what do I think about this in this moment is, are you going to get the humanitarian or the authoritarian? Like which side of that sign is going to present itself? And I think it really depends on how we use the rules, the resources, the boundaries that Saturn gives us. And you can say, I'm going to keep everything to myself and become very authoritarianism. I need to make sure that I look out for me. Or you can say, I know these rules really well, and I can make this game playable for everybody, which becomes the humanitarian side. That's one of my, attempts at finding the positive in that.
It's interesting you're saying this as the moon, of course, is in Leo, right? And I think that's when you say the humanitarianism, the authoritarianism, all of that has to do with this, I would say, being so far away from the sun's home, right? There's something, the beauty about Aquarius is that it can see the full picture. Oh,
I apparently have to go.
yes. So with that, this
Thank
has
you
been
all.
lovely. You're about to hop on your call, and we are Ask Me Astros. Have a gorgeous day. We'll finish up this conversation next week. Bye.
Hello. Yeah, this is me.